Assalamu alaikum. It's nice to see you again as we continue to bring the divine into the daily by understanding how we can incorporate the 99 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and bring those characteristics into our daily lives to improve our relationship with our spouse and with our children. The name that we're going to discuss today is Al-Hakim, which means the wise. When we talk about asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us hikmah or to give us wisdom in terms of how we interact with our spouse, how we interact with our children, we ask this of Allah because many times, rather than reacting to our children or to our spouse with rational, thought-through actions, we often react with emotion, an emotion that is sometimes doused in sensitivity. When we base all of our decisions in our relationship or with our family in emotion that's really filled with a sensitive core, we lose sight of how to make wise decisions or how to take actions that have wisdom behind them. What does that mean? Sometimes in a relationship, we may want very much to be heard. We may want very much for our spouse to understand where we're coming from. We may want very much for our children to listen, to pay attention, to recognize what we want from them and to have them act upon it. But the wisdom comes into play when we realize that in a relationship, in a family situation even, the only actions that we have control over are the actions that we initiate, our own actions and our own reactions. So when our child misbehaves, for example, in that moment, we can't control our child's actions as much as we may want to. When our teenager speaks back to us with sass, in that moment, we may want to change that approach to conversating or talking back, but we can't control that. When our spouse says something that we don't like or we don't approve of, when our spouse acts in a way that we feel is hurtful possibly, or is something that we never would do, we can't control that. And that's part of having the hikmah, the wisdom of recognizing that we cannot control it. But we can control our reactions to it. We can control how we interact from that point on. How do we bring this to the attention of our spouse? How do we discipline our children? How do we take the situation that we're handed and work with it in a way that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? There's a cute little saying that's sometimes circulated among many, and it asks that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides us with the wisdom to recognize that there are things that we can't change and the ability to change that which we can change, but to be content knowing that there are certain things that we can't change. That's true wisdom. And that's the hikmah that we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Al-Hakim, to allow all of us to incorporate into our daily lives with our spouse and with our children. Jazakumullahu khair. And I look forward to talking to you again as we bring the divine into the daily. Assalamu alaikum.